Hey, my beautiful bitches, it's me, Fiona St. James, and welcome to another episode of Fiona's Coffee Talks. And as always, I like to start off every day with a fresh, hot, black cup of coffee. Hold the cream! I'd love to. And of course, I think of my favorite quote of the century by Oscar Wilde, which says, "Life is too important to be taken seriously, so lighten up, folks." So today's topic is, drumroll please, Life of a Drag Queen, Part 3. Yay! Okay, so Part 1 was the overview. Part 2 was the first time that I decided to do it, which was Miss Ice Palace 1987. That was at Fire Island, and it was Vampire Lesbians of Sodom, that show at the Provincetown Playhouse, which was my inspiration. So now let's continue. So that same summer, 1987, that happened early on that summer. Like the invasion had happened, then I did Miss Ice Palace, and then that summer I just went off and running with it. I ended up then doing Miss Silver Lining, then ended up doing Miss Long Island, which was at the bunkhouse in Sayville, and subsequently ended up doing Miss Fire Island, which was the big one of them all. Like they're all big events, but like, you know, these are all of these Long Island ones. And it was kind of wonderful because it's like I had no idea that I was going to be doing it. But you know, I tend to be very feast or famine. Like famine, I can be a bit of an extremist in that. Like if I decide to do something, I tend to like just dive right in and do it. So that was definitely the case with this, because I definitely went from like, you know, doing the first thing, Miss Ice Palace, where I didn't have anything. Like, you know, I bought a pair of heels, but I borrowed everything else. But then, like, as soon as that happened, that then I realized, oh, I want to start doing this. Then, of course, you know, you start buying things. And like, there was this store that no longer exists, but did back then, Lee's Mardi Gras, which was on 14th and like 9th, I think, 9th or 10th, like all the way west. So, like, you know, all the queens would go there, or like Pat Fields. Those are like the two main stores. So, like, you know, in a matter of a minute, suddenly I had much more of a wardrobe and, you know, and wigs, and I was much better equipped versus like having to borrow stuff from people. So, and it was interesting too, because it seems like like right off the bat, it was me doing all of these different contests, which was great, which, but and then I also like started performing at clubs. I'm going to talk about that. The first place that I performed that will be the next video. But, you know, definitely that summer, there were like one or two places that I performed at. But when you think about it, usually you have like experience under your belt doing something before you compete in that. Whatever the field is, I was the complete opposite. I was just like, oh, let me compete, even though like I hadn't done it. But, you know, when you have a theatrical background, and then because I'd been going to Fire Island so much, and then so I would see all of these drag queens perform, and because I came from a theatrical background, I thought to myself, well, it's really no different than if I'm performing as a guy. I mean, I'm still just more makeup, heels, a wig, and, you know, lip syncing instead of actually like singing and dancing. But then I was singing live, I should say, because then even like all the years to follow, and even early on, like all of my numbers would always have like a dance aspect to it. Like I wasn't just one of these, you know, a queen that would just stand there and like and lip sync. I like movement. So you know, and years later, the backup dancers are, but I'm jumping the gun. So, but that first summer was kind of magical because it just so happened that all of these things happened like one right after the other, and then a couple of paid bookings thrown in between this. So those first 2 months, it was like quite the introduction for me, where I suddenly was just, I found something that I love doing. And it was for me another aspect of performing. Uh, it's funny too, because it was never really like how could I put this, a sexual thing for me. Like, you know, I know like when you dress up, a certain type of guy hits on you. You know, usually it's like these pseudo straight men with the straight past that love a drag queen. But like with me, whenever I would, you know, even if I met someone dressed that way, that for me, it was all about the performance quality of it, the performance aspect of it. So once the show was over or the gig was over, that shit comes off. You know, unless, I'm not saying that that's never happened, but that's really not my MO. So, but yeah, so that summer, 1987, it was magical for me, and that's really what like made everything go from there. So yeah, I guess 2025. So I guess it's been uh, a long time that I've been doing this, 38 years. So anyway, but that summer definitely to have that kind of introduction and then have it take off, and then I just went with it and was kind of wonderful for me. So anywho, that was some of 1987. So again, thank you so much for being here with me. Don't forget, subscribe if you have not, thumbs up, follow on my social media, FionaSt.James.com. Saint is not spelled out, just ST, no period after the T. That's also FionaSt.James.com is where you can get my self-published memoirs, The Life and Crimes of Fiona St. James. So, all right, guys, thank you so much for being here with me. And as always, I love doing these videos and sharing my stories with you. So, thanks again. Love you.